If you're looking to understand the reasons why a patient is included or excluded from a report, then our Check Patient feature can help. This feature runs a patient through the rules of a report and displays which reports they do or do not pass. In this video, we'll show you where to find the Check Patient feature and how to use it to understand a patient's inclusion in a report. Once logged into Ardens Manager, I'm going to find the report by accessing it from our Conditions dashboard in the Services module. This report is showing a list of asthma patients that have been included in the Priority 2 grouping using the UCLP risk stratification. Clicking into the Patients tab, I can see the list of patients that have been included in this report. Clicking into the Rules tab, I can see what criteria a patient has to meet to be included in this report. The Rules tab tells me what criteria a patient would have to meet to be included, but at this stage I cannot tell what specific criteria a patient has met to be included. This is where the Check Patient feature comes in handy. Click the Check Patient button to the right of the patient that you're going to investigate. The Check Patient window will open. Depending on how many rules there are, this could take a few seconds to load. The top of the window displays the patient's name and NHS number. You can also see the date of the data you are viewing and a confirmation of the report. On the right, you can see the patient's status on this report. This specific patient has been included. Below this, I can see why. Firstly, I can see that the patient meets the basic eligibility to be considered in this report. They are on the asthma register. They are therefore passed to the next rule. The Rules section then displays the specific criteria that this group of patients must meet to be included. For each rule, you will see an outcome. In this instance, Rule 1 states that for a patient to pass to the next rule, they must not already be included in the Priority 1 UCLP grouping. This patient is not in Group 1, so they are passed to Rule 2. Rule 2 has two criteria groups. They are both outlined by a box. Rule 2 states that if the patient meets the criteria for any of the two groups, then they should be included in the Priority 2 group report. Let's take a look at the first criteria group. The patient doesn't meet the first criteria because they are not included in the UCLP Risk Group 2 report. They do, however, meet the second set of criteria. They have the necessary codes for a recent control test, which has a value of between 15 and 20. So for this grouping, the patient has met part of the criteria needed, so their status is partially met. Let's take a look at the second criteria group. The patient is included in the Risk Group 3 report. And again, they have the necessary codes for a recent control test, which has a value of between 15 and 20. Where criteria is fully met, you can see additional details such as clinical codes recorded, appointment details, event details, and more. I can see this detail by hovering on the eye icon. So because this patient has fully met all criteria for one of the groups, they pass Rule 2. This is the reason they are showing as included in the report that we are checking. As well as additional information about the activity, I can also find more information about other criteria such as codes by clicking on them. This opens a new window which displays information about the code structure. If, for example, I wanted to know more about why this patient is not included in the report, such as the Risk Group 2 report, I can click on it. Doing this will run the patient through the rules for the Group 2 report. In the same way I've just done, I can then investigate the criteria to understand why the patient is included or excluded in this report. In this example, I can see that the patient was excluded from the Risk Group 2 report. The History section shows which report I came from, which was the Priority Group 2 report, where the patient was included. I can click on this to go back. We have just run the rules to understand why a patient is included in a report, but what if I'm expecting to see a patient in this report, but they are not included in the patient list? To investigate this, I can paste the NHS number of the patient I want to look into this search bar below the patient list. This will open the same Check Patient window. For this patient, I can see that they have been excluded from the report. I can see that they are in their eligible group as they are on the asthma register. I can confirm they are not in the priority 1 grouping, so they pass to rule 2. However, in rule 2, I can see that they have not met any of the criteria needed for this report. This is a reason that they are excluded. Now that we understand a patient's status on a report, we can use the findings to take action such as correcting information in the patient's record or making further contact with the patient to ensure that activity is completed. Please note that when you run check patient, the rules are applied real time. If the reports for your organisation are still being updated for the day, this could cause the statuses to appear differently for a small window of time. If you have any questions or concerns, then please do reach out to our support team who will be more than happy to help you investigate. Thank you for watching.